Hello everyone, so we are now in chapter 2 of our Florida Real Estate Brokers Guide, okay? Chapter 2 is talking about opening a real estate office. So these are some of the things that you as a broker will be responsible for. When you open that brokerage, the different type of real estate companies that you can have. If you flip on over, let's start out on page 32. It talks about the business structures that may register as real estate brokers. Page 32, page 33 is just basically telling you, okay, you can either decide that you want to be a sole proprietorship, which is basically just you, the broker, one. You don't want any, you may not even want any agents up under you. Don't want to deal with Bernice, don't want to deal with anybody else. Just let me be the broker, okay? Absolutely fine. That's a sole proprietorship. Another thing that will help you in studying for this chapter, in these little gray boxes, remember the gray boxes are actually, to me, they take the meat of the subject and kind of zooms it in for you so you can actually focus on those particular information. That's what it's looking at for sole proprietorship at a glance in the gray box down below. Flip on over to the next page on your page 34. It's talking about general partnership. Now you're talking about having your real estate brokerage with at least two of you in a general partnership. One thing about it, in that general partnership, you guys are going to be responsible for the debt of the company as well. Here again, down in the bottom, they have general partnership at a glance. Some information about that general partnership. Flip on over to the next page. It tells you how the dissolution, how it can dissolve those partnerships. And it tells you general partnerships can be dissolved because of death, withdrawal, bankruptcy, or legal disability of the partner or the general partners. So those are some of the ways that it can actually dissolve. You flip over to the next page. Another type of business entity is called the limited partnership. So tells you limited partnership representing partnerships formed by two or more. Here again, you got two or more under the law of Florida, having one or more general partner and one or more limited partner with limited liability and no managerial control, investors only. So here's the thing that can kind of help you out. And you know, back from even in chapter 1, if you are going to be dealing with the public, if you're going to be selling, leasing, renting, and doing any of those 8 areas of real estate as a partner in the real estate business, you need to have that broker's license. Basically, this is telling you right here, if you're going to be a limited partner, you are not going to have any managerial contact if you're going to be basically like the investor, okay? So in the limited liability partnership with one or more, you're going to have one of the partners may not have that contact with the public or managing the office on a day-to-day basis is what they're looking at. Look down below in the gray box, limited partnership at a glance. At least one general partner and one limited partners are required. General partners are personally liable for business debt. It also tells you limited partners invest cash and may not participate in management, usually because they don't have a broker. That broker's license is inactive, maybe is what it may be. So that's what they're looking at there. Limited partners have limited liabilities. Yeah, not everybody has the same liability in that. And then it tells you a certificate of limited partnership must be filed with the Florida Department of State. Must. Not can we, do we, have to. It must be filed. The partnership name must identify entities as a limited partnership, for example, limited or LTD. Those are some good things that you need to know concerning the limited partnership at a glance. Or on the next page, page 37, limited liability partnership at a glance. Look in the gray box for this one. It tells you limited liability for all, So all partners with the limited liability partnership is going to have limited liability. The limited liability partnership, you file with the Florida Department of State as well. And then it tells you the names must identify either as limited liability partnership or LLP. So if you're going to do the limited liability partnership, make sure that that is identified. It tells you the brokers must register the brokerage limited liability partnership with DBPR. So after you have registered with the Department of State, you also have to register with the DBPR, all general partners with the DBPR, and trade name with the DBPR and the Florida Department of State. Those are forms that you will see. A lot of those forms, I believe, you can also get off of myflorida.com, but those are forms that you will be filing out separately. Then they continue to talk on, look down to the bottom on page 37. Now they're talking about corporation. So your choices so far, you can either do sole proprietorship, you, yourself, and you, okay? You can do a general partnership, at least 2 of you. You can do a limited partnership. Here again, you're going to have 1 or 2. Or you could do a limited liability partnership. And now they're saying you can do a corporation. Corporation does not mean that it has to be the U.S. Army, okay? No, it could be 1 or 2 as well. It tells you down under corporation, a corporation is an artificial person or legal entity created by law and consists of 1 or more partnership, okay? It is considered to have an existence of its own, separate from the individual. Yet, so that's a little different from your LLCs or your limited liabilities, okay? Or your general partnerships. Your corporation has its own separate entity is what they're talking about. 2 types of corporation underneath there. You could either be a foreign corp, which means you were formed in the state of Florida. You have your corporation docs in the state of Florida. Or you can be, that's a domestic corp. I think I said foreign, sorry. Your domestic corp, if the corporation is organized under Florida stats, it is a domestic corporation, so I apologize if I said that wrong. A foreign corporation is organized under the laws of a state other than Florida, but yet they're doing business within the state of Florida. They may have been formed in Seattle, Washington, yet they have multiple offices that they're doing business with in the state of Florida. That's what you're looking at concerning foreign corporation. Over on the next page, here again you have corporations at a glance. Look at that second bullet, and those are things that's really good to notice, because if you kind of, as you're reading, you'll see that there's different departments maybe that different business entities are filing with. For a corporation, file articles of incorporation with the Florida Department of State, okay? So continue to read that information concerning your corporation at a glance. Your foreign corporations. Flip over to the next page. It's talking more about the corporations, but down to the bottom it's talking about vacancies of office. So this is pretty much talking about what happens when the main broker, the broker files for that company, that record when they leave. It specifically tells you if the brokerage, if the broker for the brokerage, if they die, resign, or leave, you got to get them replaced back within 14 days. Now, what you can do, the book tells you, you can get a temporary broker in there, and they can, temp broker can be there for up to 60 days, but you have 14 days that you have to get a new broker back into that brokerage. Over on the next page, there's another corporation called an S Corp. Main thing about the S Corp, it does allow you to avoid that double taxation. The other thing about the S Corp, you can only have 100 shareholders at the most for that S Corporation there. Now, there are some corporations on the next page. There are some companies that cannot register to be a real estate brokerage. For example, on the next page, Corporation Sole, which is an example of a church organization. There are some church organizations that own real estate. They may own apartments that they rent out, that they lease, but they cannot register as a real estate brokerage. Joint venture is another one that can't do it. Main reason why is because joint venture, you're pretty much just doing one thing as a joint venture, and then after that thing is done, then that venture is kind of done. So you're not like registering a partnership or some corporation, something of that sort. It's usually one particular thing that you're doing. Over on the next page, they're talking about associations. Look at the corporative association. It tells you a corporative association is permitted to conduct commercial business and to convey, sell, or buy its own property, but it cannot, okay, be registered as a real estate brokerage entity. Also, unincorporated associations, those are another ones that cannot. Ostensible partnerships are prohibited right here in the book, people, okay? Right here, prohibited. And the main thing about ostensible partnership, that's when you're giving a sense of partnerships to the public when you have no legal partnership. You have not created or filled out your partnership forms or docs, so there's no legal partnership entity, but you're giving the sense to the public that you are in a partnership of some sort. That's illegal, okay? Not allowed. Also, over on the next page, trade names. And you see this a lot in the field. Sometimes people are using names other than the name that they legally have on the papers with the state. That's fine as long as you register your trade name also with the state, is what they're talking about with the Florida Department of State. Okay? So, over on the next page, they're talking more about the trade names in the gray box. But look down below where it says sales associate and a broker associate. We are saying that sales associate and broker associates may not use a trade, which is a fictitious name. Sales associate and broker associates must register under their legal names, okay? So that's what you're looking at there. And to kind of help you out, especially in the field, just make sure as an associate, you're pretty much doing things under the brokerage name, or under, you know, your broker. If, for example, you have a sole proprietorship and you're one of the specials that get to be under them, that's kind of what you're looking at there, okay? So we'll finish up the other half in just a short period. We'll be back.